Your card gets declined at the grocery store. Not for steak and champagne, just chicken, rice, vegetables, and a cereal box your kids begged for. The cashier pauses, the line gets quiet, and you feel your face turn into a warning light. You swipe again. Declined. You laugh like it's a glitch, while your brain is screaming, "Please, not here." Then you pull out a second card like a magician with one last trick. It works, and that somehow feels worse. You walk to your car with bags in your hands and shame in your chest, and you tell yourself the oldest lie in America: I'm failing. But what if you're not failing? What if you're simply living the most normal life possible inside an economy where normal now means one surprise away from debt? Today we're doing something financial gurus hate. We're going to stop arguing about motivation, discipline, and lattes, and we're going to do the math. Real numbers, real monthly pressure, the price of being average in 2026. Not luxury, not private jets, not even comfortable. I'm talking about the baseline package society calls standard: housing, a car, food, healthcare, bills, and the ability to stay employed. And by the end, you'll understand why so many people can't handle a $1,000 emergency without panic. Here's the uncomfortable premise. Average people didn't suddenly become stupid. The price of normal life exploded, and wages didn't keep up. So the same behavior that used to build stability now builds stress. Let's start with the part everyone loves to quote: income. The median household number people throw around is roughly the kind of money that's supposed to equal middle class, let's say around $84,000 a year, as a reference point. Sounds fine on paper, right? Now watch what happens the second that money hits reality. Taxes take a bite. Payroll deductions take another. Maybe you do a small retirement contribution because you're told you're irresponsible if you don't. Suddenly, that good income isn't $84,000 anymore. It's closer to the mid-60,000s in actual take-home pay, depending on your state and situation. Break it down monthly, and you get something like $5,400 to $5,500 to run your entire life. Not a fantasy life, a normal one. So the question isn't, can you be rich? The question is, can you even be stable? Step 1. Housing. Every expert repeats the same rule like it's a law of physics. Don't spend more than 30% of your income on housing. On $84,000, that's around $2,100 a month. Here's the problem. In many places, $2,100 doesn't buy comfort, it buys barely acceptable. Thin walls, a landlord who moves like a sleepy sloth when the heater dies, a neighborhood you tolerate, not enjoy. But fine, let's be generous and say you found a place for exactly $2,100. After housing, you're left with roughly $3,300. That sounds like a lot until you remember you still need transportation, food, bills, insurance, and the privilege of staying alive. Step 2. Transportation. Outside a few big cities, you don't just want a car, you need one. And a car in 2026 isn't a vehicle, it's a subscription with wheels. A typical payment can easily be around $700 a month. Add insurance, maybe $200, gas, $200 to $300 depending on your commute, maintenance, oil, tires, the random repair that shows up like a surprise tax, budget another $150. That's roughly $1,300 a month just to own the machine that gets you to the job that pays for the machine. So now your $3,300 becomes about $2,000. Step 3. Food. This is where people love to blame you. Stop eating out. Cook more. Okay, great. But even a moderate grocery budget is heavy now. For a couple, it might be $600. For a family, it can be $1,000 or more. Let's split the difference and say $700 a month for a very normal household situation. Now you're down to roughly $1,300, and we still haven't paid for the invisible stuff that keeps modern life functioning. Step 4. Utilities and essentials. Electricity, water, trash, internet, and phones. If you're being frugal, it might be $300 to $400. Let's say $350. Now your buffer is around $950. And this is where the real villain enters the room. Healthcare. Even with employer help, premiums can still hit hard. For an individual, you might pay a couple hundred a month out of pocket. For a family, it can be far higher. Let's keep it conservative and say $200 a month for a single person with decent employer coverage. Now you're at about $750, and we haven't even touched the part where healthcare really hurts. Deductibles, surprise bills, dental, vision, and the random "this isn't covered" letter that ruins your week. Step 5. Debt. Student loans are not universal, but they're common enough that ignoring them is like ignoring rent because not everyone rents. Average payments can be a few hundred a month, let's say $350. Now your leftover is about $400, and people hear that and go, "See, that's plenty." No, that's a trap, because $400 isn't disposable money, it's the thin layer between you and chaos. Because we still haven't bought clothing, we haven't built an emergency fund, we haven't paid for a single dentist visit, we haven't done car registration, haircuts, prescriptions, birthdays, and the 100 tiny costs that show up every month like mosquitoes. And if you have kids, the math becomes comedy. Childcare alone can rival rent. After-school programs cost, sports cost, school fees cost. Kids are amazing, and financially, they turn your budget from tight into impossible. So when people say, "Why can't Americans cover a $1,000 emergency?" This is why. You don't have a money problem, you have a margin problem. There's no breathing room. Now here's where it gets darker. The system looks at your lack of margin and tries to sell you a solution. Not a real solution, a product. Credit, financing, buy now, pay later, low monthly payment. And that creates the cycle. You're short on margin, so you borrow. You borrow, so you lose more margin to interest. You lose more margin, so you borrow again. It's a treadmill that charges you rent to run. Now let's talk about the second trap, the one that sounds like hope. People see this math and think, okay, I just need to earn more. So they chase a promotion. They hustle, they job hop, they climb. But making more money doesn't automatically fix the problem because the expected lifestyle rises with your income. You don't just upgrade your paycheck, you upgrade your obligations. Let me prove it with an example. Meet a couple. Let's call them the Parkers. Combined income, $130,000 a year. That's supposed to be winning. That's top tier, doing great. Monthly gross, that's about $10,800. It sounds huge until taxes and deductions eat first. Federal tax, state tax, payroll tax, retirement contributions. Suddenly, their take-home might land around $7,000, give or take. Now, the successful family package begins. They buy a modest 3-bedroom in a decent school district because they have 2 kids and they're trying to do it right. Mortgage, taxes, insurance, maybe HOA, housing can easily hit $3,500 a month. That leaves about $3,500 for everything else. Now add 2 cars because both commute. Payments, insurance, gas, call it $1,400 to $1,600. Now you're at around $2,000. Groceries for a family? Maybe $900 even if they're careful. Health premiums? $500. Childcare or after-school programs? $800. Student loans? $600. You see what just happened? They're basically at zero, and we haven't paid utilities, phones, internet, car maintenance, birthdays, school supplies, dental, or the random life happens bill. This is why people making 6 figures still feel broke. The stress doesn't disappear, it just gets nicer furniture. It gets granite countertops, it gets better lighting, and the same anxiety. Because security isn't your income, it's the gap between your income and your required monthly life, and that gap is shrinking for everyone. Now here's the most important part. None of this is an accident. Entire industries are optimized to turn your small gap into their profit. Banks approve you for what you can technically qualify for, not what you can safely afford. Car dealers stretch loans longer so the monthly payment looks manageable. Schools normalize debt as a rite of passage. Credit companies monetize your emergencies. Everybody gets paid when you say yes. Nobody gets paid when you become stable. And once you're locked in, mortgage, car loans, subscriptions, childcare, student debt, you're not just paying bills, you're feeding a financial machine that demands you keep working, keep spending, keep borrowing. That's the real cost of being average. It's not only money, it's freedom. You can't take a risk, you can't downshift, you can't breathe, because the bills don't care about your burnout.
So what do you do with this? Because the system is rigged is an interesting video, but it's a useless life plan. You need an exit strategy. Step 1, run your survival math. Not your hopeful math, not the bank's math, your math. Take your real take-home pay and list your fixed costs. Housing, car, insurance, minimum debt payments, utilities, phone, childcare. Whatever is left after fixed costs is your actual life. That's your food, emergencies, saving, insanity. If your fixed costs are eating 70% or 80% of take-home, you're not bad with money, you're boxed in. Step 2, find your biggest vampire. For most people, it's housing or cars, not because you're irresponsible, because those two categories got absurdly expensive. Do one brutal thought experiment. What would happen if you reduced housing by $500 a month? That's $6,000 a year. Over 10 years, invested, that can become a life-changing number. Not because you hustled, because you stopped bleeding. Or what if you kept your car longer instead of upgrading every few years? Eliminating even one payment changes everything. That's not deprivation, that's purchasing your future time.
Step 3, build the gap on purpose. The gap is the space between what you earn and what you spend. No gap means no margin. No margin means one surprise becomes debt. Start with 10% if you can, even 5% as a start, and protect that gap like it's your identity, because it is. The gap is how you stop paying overdraft fees, interest, late penalties, and the poverty premium, the extra cost of being broke. Step 4, stop confusing looking successful with being stable. The world rewards appearances. Social media rewards appearances. Your neighbor's new SUV rewards appearances. But stability is quiet. Stability is boring. Stability is power. Opting out of the average trap will make you look behind compared to people funding their life on credit. You might drive the older car. You might live in the smaller place. You might skip the vacation everyone posts. But they're not posting the debt behind that vacation. They're not posting the fights about money. They're not posting the anxiety at 2 a.m. when the numbers don't work. You get to choose your hard. It's hard to drive an old car while your coworkers upgrade. It's also hard to be 60 with no savings because you spent decades maintaining appearances. Choose the hard that buys you freedom. Here's the bottom line. Average life became unaffordable because the baseline got expensive and the margin disappeared. Most people aren't irresponsible, they're mathematically trapped, and the only real way out is boring and powerful. Run your numbers, cut your biggest vampire, build the gap, and stop paying to impress people who won't pay your bills. If this video hit a nerve, that's not negativity, that's clarity. You're not broken, you're seeing the real math. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. So here's your move. This weekend, do the survival math. One sheet of paper, real take-home pay, real fixed costs, real remainder. And if the remainder is scary, good. Now you have truth, and truth is the first tool. If you want more videos that expose the real money traps without shame, without guru fluff, and with actual numbers, subscribe. Because the system wins when you stay confused, and you don't have to.